Hi, it's Joy and today we're watching The Umbrella Academy, Season 4, Episode 4, The Cleanse. I want to know what they remember about the day Ben died. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon 2 weeks in advance, the edited version 1 week in advance, and let's go. Good, right back with it. I was worried we were going to start with like the jeans or something.
Has acquired a deadly new weapon. It's being held in a shipping container, awaiting a buyer.
Well, children should be not involved in any of this. Jennifer or the squid? Or both?
Dad?
I mean, Reginald probably would have just told them to, like, kill Ben as long as well with the girl. They're connected. Are they connected or is it just Jennifer when she touches one of them?
Let's go. Ben. I told you not to open the container.
We know he has no problem with murdering the kids. How did he get them to go home with him? Because they could easily have taken him on. To get them into the memory thing.
The anger you may feel towards me is misdirected.
You're the same person, you'd do it again.
You are no different to the other Hargreaves.
Both fucking psychopaths!
It's not his fault.
Okay, we'll hear from you in a second. He didn't have to shoot them in the head. He could have done anything to separate them. Like, yes, obviously, I guess they'd touched and so they'd have that connection and they'd seek each other out. But there are other things you can do than just executing them on sight.
A second particle was created, Durango. When Marigold and Durango interact, they cause a reaction.
So any of them touching Jennifer.
It was too late for our world.
You couldn't have known, darling.
They destroyed their world, Jesus.
None of you can come into contact with her.
And what happens if we do?
The
We end
cleanse.
the world.
Again.
Saw that coming.
Why did I even bother saving your ungrateful ass?
A good question. We met, what, 36 hours ago? And in that time, you've killed, like, 24 people.
Yeah, to protect you.
Still killed.
You and me, we're connected somehow.
Is it through the other timeline, or if any of them had spent this time with her, would they feel the same
We can figure
connection?
this out together.
One of the hosts must be eliminated before the reaction is complete.
Reaction. You do realize that you're talking about human beings and not lab rats, correct?
But you don't seem to appreciate what's at stake here. We must act before it's too late. Oh!
How about you shut your mouth?
Victor, please, don't hurt him. Why not? Why shouldn't
He
I?
has
All
hurt
does is hurt
so many
everybody else.
people.
Ben, Jennifer, me.
One life isn't more important than the entire planet.
Oh, but your wife's is.
You treated me like I was broken, and I believed you. I thought you knew me better than I knew myself. But I know now you don't know shit.
You probably should stop with the powers, but I'm glad you got.
You're the reason this happened,
I'm glad you got to say this to
and
him.
I am not gonna let you kill Ben. Not.
Well, the man outside said that you would be able to provide certain services.
Jesus Christ.
Hop on board, Dick.
Oh, I don't like this. Like, this is like forced prostitution. I just thought he'd make him corporeal like he'd made Ben corporeal briefly in previous seasons. Like, this is forced prostitution.
Look, you must have those powers for a reason, right?
That could change so many things if our Ben had been alive the whole time.
Alright, fine.
How? Well,
Every day, me and the kids have to watch you moping around the house, complaining about your life, like your job, your in-laws, your fat belly.
you're just as bored as I am. All right, remember, you're the one that snuck out to
He
those.
doesn't even have a fat belly. Can they leave that alone, please? And even if he did, it wouldn't matter.
He must be considered armed.
You're both
and
not
extremely
happy.
dangerous. Be
Reevaluate.
prepared.
I can save him.
Look around. He's beyond saving.
No. Ben
Don't
saved
make me put you down.
Victor once. It was our Ben, not this Ben, but
Very
still.
well, then.
I'm on my way.
Kids come first. Reginald is everywhere. It's awful.
since we were kids, this is exactly what he does. He messes up, he gets in some kind of shit, and who does he call? Me.
You're always there to pick him up. But then his family, it's hard to turn your back on them. Like, what is the right thing to do here? All the employees are monsters? Of course. What is he up to?
I very much discussed the missing girl.
Because he created this situation, Jennifer being missing, etc.
I've never felt this way about anyone before.
It's the Marigold and the Durango? But then it happened in every
I feel like breaking
timeline.
down this wall right now. Obviously, we're meant to be together. Me with my tentacles, you the miracle squid girl.
Sounds so romantic when you put it that way. Are you sure it's the same train? Like, this stop could be on multiple lines. And even then, do interdimensional trains always go the right way?
Oh, no.
More money than sense.
Stacking up repeat customers are.
And like, she sees the man unlocking the door. She then hears the man locking the door. So she knows he's a prisoner. And she's still like, yeah, I'm gonna use your body for sex. It's just so icky, and I don't like it, and I just want to disengage from this entire plot line until it's over.
What money?
Don't play dumb with me.
Okay, this at least explains the motivations. So Klaus knows where it is. Is it not going to be the same place?
Vending machine.
Umbrellas.
Oh, we're not in the right timeline.
No timeline.
In the neighborhood. Neighborhood of what? Christ, I never should have listened to you.
Chill out, Vi.
What if we can't find the
Figure
train
it out,
back?
okay?
That's the correct one.
Because
She gonna have figured out that the bank was a lion. Be here, because you need to move.
That's right. How about I put a hole in that jacket?
Try it.
What? Like, are they gonna kill each other?
Oh my god.
Her 3 people were very skilled, including her.
Not expecting that.
You fucking hand.
Oh no, is he stuck? Okay, that is awful because he can't even die. So he would be trapped there for eternity, and he knows that.
A year or two should do the trick.
Jesus Christ, I was gonna leave him there, they'd come get him and be like, now you wanna work for me?
Because he's my brother.
A meaningless connection.
You're wrong.
Really? I am your superior in every way.
Sure. Keep telling yourself that.
Maybe.
It's not stopping. I thought they would get stuck somewhere.
Stop.
Well, yeah, this is terrible. I was hoping while he was asleep she was going to leave because he's quite being like creepily. And I know it's not entirely his fault. It's the effect, the rash, or not even them to have the rashes anymore. It's the effect of their bond. But like, I was hoping she'd maybe run. Oh, great. Or was the world going to end while they're in a different timeline? Because that's less than ideal. Or is this just the beginning? Doesn't look like much of a cleanse to me. So the question now is if that is just the localized effect of them combining, or if that is the world has ended and Five and Lila are luckily not in the world in this timeline, so they're gonna have to get back and then they can go back in time and stop everything from happening in this timeline or something, I guess. Or it was just the area around the motel that was cleansed, and so there's still time for everybody else. Because we didn't see the rest of them suffer, and maybe we would have done. I didn't love this episode. I didn't hate it. I hated one plotline, but I didn't hate the episode itself. But I didn't love it because I kind of felt like if you took out 90% of what happened in this episode and just squeezed the relevant bits, finding out about Ben and Jennifer, Ben and Jennifer being together and a couple of little beats and moments that were like character moments, and squeeze them into one of the other episodes and just had an episode that was like a couple of episodes that were 10 minutes longer, the show would be no worse off without the moments, if that makes sense. Like Diego and Luther going to the FBI, it didn't really do anything for me. Like maybe it will in the next episode if we see them actually exploring and like interacting, but it just didn't really land. I liked the moments with Allison and Claire because they seem to have quite a frosty relationship. So it was nice to see that, well, yeah, things aren't always sunshine and roses between them. They are really close. I liked that. I did like seeing Victor stand up to Reginald. I obviously liked finding out what happened to Ben, and it was insane. Not what I had expected at all. The Ben and Jennifer stuff, I don't think we needed as much of, but I also understand that they're trying to show us that they are being drawn together and pulled together. And even though like Jennifer isn't like in her sane mind, like we met 36 hours ago. This is creepy and weird. You keep killing people. I want to leave. She's still drawn to him, and he's just hopelessly drawn to her. It makes sense. But I feel like a lot of it was, again, kind of like the previous episode, just setting things in motion. But this episode, it felt a bit slower to me than the last one did, if that makes sense. Like, I think it partly was because it began and they were all together and they were on the trail of Ben and Jennifer. And my brain was like, we're on their trail. And then everybody has just split up and went and did their own things instead of staying on the trail. And I was a bit like, oh. Like, when Allison went off, I was like, okay, yeah, you have a kid. Your kids need you. If Lila or Diego had got a call saying your kids are in trouble, I would also support them going. But the rest of them, like, I thought they'd all stay together and try and find Ben. And instead, they just went on some field trips to wherever they fucking fancied. I suppose Five and Lila going and trying to save Ben's life in the first place isn't the worst idea in the world, though I'm not entirely sure why they think it would stop everything. Because it would just change the original timeline irrevocably, and hopefully for the better, because Ben would exist. But who knows what would be different? Who knows how many things would be different? Would any of these events have happened, or would things have happened in such a way that, like, would Victor have had that bit more support in his life, and so he wouldn't have been pushed anywhere near destroying the moon? Would they have saved that timeline if Ben was alive? Who knows? There are so many possibilities. There's also a possibility that things would have been even worse had Ben survived. Not through like Ben's personal fault, but more just through like butterfly effects of just how different things were changed. I can understand in this, I'd sort of understand more in this timeline, choosing to go back in time to stop Ben and Jennifer from meeting. Whether it's not going to the town, like, in the first place. Like, I think they've been through enough time travel that probably if their own selves appeared and said, don't go to that town, there's nothing there, Jennifer, the guy is conning you, but it's actually just going to be a really bad news if you go there, we can't tell you because of future stuff, but like, trust us. Yes, this is not a very trustworthy group, but I feel like you trust yourself if you're, maybe, given that they know time travel is possible. So I'm not entirely sure why they immediately were like, we must go back and save Ben. I mean, I'm glad that's what they wanted to do because Ben deserves to live, but it seemed like an extra risky thing to do rather than just trying to time travel here. And now, of course, they're getting on and off of trains that they do not understand. They don't understand the train line system. Of course they got on the wrong train. It's easy enough to do in the real world. So they're in a pickle, but it also could be a pickle that saves their lives. Diego and Luther, again, they just kind of needed something to do with the characters and they just had them exist for a bit. I liked seeing Victor standing up to Reginald, standing up for himself, and telling Reginald that Reginald's a piece of shit because he is. And also coming up with a plan to save Ben. And it really reminded me of in season 2 when Victor had been like tortured and was losing control of his powers and was gonna cause the world to end. And it was Ben, our Ben, who gave, I mean, he was a corporeal ghost essentially, but he gave his life. He helped Victor to survive. He helped to show him, to save him, to pull him back from the edge. And in this moment, that's what Victor wants to do for Ben. And I'd love to think it was possible. I wonder if that's going to be too easy a solution, but I think it would be really, it's a really lovely concept. And it also mirrors that season 2 as ending as well in a really lovely way. Now, the plotline I despised was Klaus's plotline. I didn't like it. It was icky the whole time. They didn't need the sex component of it at all, and it didn't feel like it was in there to be like, this is a really serious and awful thing. It felt like it was in there because it was supposed to be funny. but it wasn't funny. Like, Klaus was being forced to sell his body. And that's just not it. And like this, it wasn't treating it like a serious issue that was happening to him. It was more of a, isn't this funny that this old man's with this beautiful woman and he calls her Bummer Peach, ha ha ha, it's funny, rather than anything else. She could have literally just wanted to speak to him. And even if he went in Klaus's body, which is a violation enough if Klaus isn't doing it by his own choice, and they just talked, it would still be icky. Like, he could have just passed on information. She could have just been like, oh, I had such a wonderful time speaking to him. I must speak to him again. And then we could have had the knife on him, like, tell me where my money is. Because I kind of, the minute I saw that it was a younger woman with an old man, I was like, she wants his money. So I didn't like that at all. I actually hated it, and I hated how they kind of, it felt like it was one of the funny beats rather than a serious beat. And like, this is a serious, awful thing that is happening. In the same way that, like, it would be like if it had portrayed Klaus being buried alive in this coffin as a funny moment. No, it's not funny. It's deeply serious. So I just didn't like. And so if they'd cut this whole thing out and we just had the evil gut, we just had an episode where Klaus said, no, I don't care, you can kill me as many times as you want, I won't work for you. And then the guy went, well, I'll bury you alive and see how you like that. If for whatever reason they need Klaus to go through this trauma, I'm hoping there's going to be a payoff. Like, he'll learn to be okay with the ghosts and control them and not need drugs, because he's literally forced to confront it. And when he was a kid and his dad tried to do the exact same thing to him, he was a child, so he was even less able to cope with it. And I mean, no one should have to be forced to figure it out that way, but maybe in this instance, because he's an adult, because he's got a lot more experience to draw on, he will actually be able to just deal with it and understand what's going on and take control, and then not need drugs going forward. And it could be the worst way of getting to a positive, but a positive ultimate ending. That's what I'm hoping the payoff of this awful trauma is going to be. If it is literally just trauma for the sake of it, it will be a bit like, Klaus could have just been missing for a few episodes. It wouldn't, like, yes, we'd miss him as a character, but I'd rather miss him as a character than see this happening to him. So if they wanted to have Klaus buried alive, there were perfectly simple other ways that they could have got there without everything that happened in this episode. And the idea of that, the idea of being buried alive is haunting and terrifying as it is, but at the very least, you know that it's a torment you will escape. Whereas every time Klaus suffocates, he will eventually wake up again quite quickly, and then he'll suffocate again, and then he'll suffocate again, and then he'll suffocate again, and that is just or starve to death, depending on what exactly it is, how much air is getting to him. Like, that is just unthinkably unbearable. And okay, Allison and Claire are looking for him, but in what universe would they be like, oh, a dog that's buried in a cemetery, that's where he'll be? Like, there's no, unless they like read in the newspaper and they're like, oh, there was a shootout in this place, must be Klaus, which I don't necessarily think either. Unless they realize that it was like a drug dealer was involved, and they might be like, Klaus, ghosts, cemetery, like drugs, that could lure them there. So we'll see what comes of it, but I mean, in the past, Klaus has been able to, like, use ghostly forces to, like, hit things or to be stronger than himself. Could he do that somehow to, like, break through the wood and dig his way out? Like he's swimming? I don't know. So this was, again, I don't think, like, this was a bad show, this is a bad season. I didn't love this episode. I think a lot of that might have been because the Klaus plotline I just wanted to disengage. I just didn't want to watch anymore. Like, if I wasn't reacting, I would have been skipping through that scene. Like, I don't want to know. He'd have suddenly been at a dog grave, and I'd have been like, what the fuck are you doing at a dog grave? Because I didn't like it. But yes, there are 2 episodes left in this final season. The end of the world has possibly arrived. 2 of our characters are trapped in an alternate timeline train. One of them's buried alive. It's great. Everything's wonderful. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction 2 weeks in advance on my Patreon, unedited 1 week in advance edited, and thank you so much for watching.